Well, welcome to the Revive Leadership Podcast, where we're going to offer quick opportunities to be able to learn and to grow as leaders, to find some extra clarity and discernment, to be able to lead missionally, effectively, and contextually wherever you find yourself. Just yesterday, I was scrolling Instagram and I had this crazy thing where, for whatever reason, all my reels and all of my stories seem to all point to church leaders and organizations that were trying to either sell something or trying to help me understand something better. They all had a problem that they were trying to solve in the church world. And I believe a lot of these people, they probably meant well. They probably had good ideas. They probably had even some success in their background that helped them to be able to understand why they would offer that and why that would be helpful. The difficulty was that it was just an inundation of information. And it made me realize that, we often talk about this time of kind of history being the age of information. And I am becoming more and more convinced that it's the age of over information, that we almost have too much information at our fingertips. About 50 years ago, if you wanted to figure out what to do in a church, you had to go to a conference, you had to go to get the right book, you had to go find where the speaker was speaking, you had to go get the information because there was no Google, there were no smartphones, you couldn't chat GPT something, you couldn't figure it out that quickly. And now, in the matter of seconds, I can have more information at my fingertips than our ancestors could ever have imagined possible. It is mind blowing. And so the issue and the trick today is not so much how do I figure out what to do. There's a lot of places that help us to have good ideas on what we could do. The trick now is how do I discern which of those ideas are the ones that I'm supposed to engage with as a leader, as a pastor, as a business leader, as an organizational leader, as a church leader? What am I supposed to do out of all of these options? You see, that was the crazy thing about the Instagram posts. It wasn't just that there was a ton of information, but some of those people were solving the same problems. They had different organizations. And one had one way to solve the problem, and another one had a completely different way to solve the problem. And those two things were actually mutually exclusive. They couldn't do them both. How do we figure out what to do? And I think this is where we have to gain clarity and understand our context well. We got to be able to diagnose what's happening around us and be able to figure out and discern what it is that we need to do. And so one of the things I've been praying for, thinking about, kind of drawing in my own leadership journey and trying to understand is how do we develop that discernment, right? How do we develop that discernment to be able to take all this information that's been given to us, all these ideas that have been thrown at us, all this stuff, and figure out what to do? And so I think really what it comes down to, what I've at least figured out that it comes down to, is it comes down to understanding our context. In a world that is increasingly connected through digital means, through online, social media, everything else, one of the things that the church might be losing a little bit, and maybe the secret sauce of what we could get back to, is being intentional about understanding the place where our feet hit the ground. Where are we ministering? That idea that might have come out of a church in Los Angeles or in Toronto or in Mumbai or Taiwan or wherever it might have been. And it might have worked great there. And there might even be some principles or practices that would work really well where I am. But here's the deal is I'm not pastoring in those places. I'm not leading in those places. I'm not doing things in those places. I'm right here where my feet hit the ground. For me, that's in Frederick, Maryland. For you, that might be in Atlanta, Georgia. That might be in St. Louis, Missouri. That might be in Portland, Maine. That might be in Washington, D.C. I don't know where that is for you, but what I do know is that each context has its own unique culture, its unique needs, its unique struggles, its unique awesome positives that are going on. The more we can understand our context, the more that we'll gain clarity in the midst of this information overload age that we find ourselves in, which might just help us to be able to discern what the right next step forward is. So my prayer for you today is that you would lead well, discern well, that God would guide you, and that you would be thinking not just where the silver bullets that we can plug and play stuff in is, but how we can move forward contextually and engage contextually. So lead well, have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday with a new episode. Talk to you then.